Okay, good morning again, Professor David J. De Los Reyes. Okay, it's August 14. The time is around 4:03 EM. Okay, my discussion for decision will be long video format discussion on this is college algebra, and we are running smooth on college algebra. Okay, let's proceed. The topic for this morning will be college algebra lesson number 31. We are now on lesson number 31. The last time around we finished the solution of a radical equation. Okay, I give you examples and we know already on how to solve a radical equation. Okay, so for this morning our lesson will be quadratic equations, meaning the solution of a quadratic equation by factoring. Quadratic equation is one of the most popular topics on the so-called college algebra. So you've been seeing on shorts video on YouTube, there are lots of what you call these videos coming out in which the problem is regarding factoring. Okay, let's proceed. Let's try to bring out the standard form of a quadratic equation. The standard form of a quadratic equation, quadratic meaning the highest power or exponent of the variable is actually 2. That's why it's quadratic. And the standard form is ex squared plus bx plus c equal to 0. With the given condition, constants a, b, and c are all real numbers in which a is not equal to 0. Because if a is equal to 0, this one will disappear and it will not fall under the so-called quadratic equation. It will now be linear. So for it to be quadratic, the value a should not be equal to 0. Because if a is 0, this x squared term will be missing and it will just be simply linear. Right? So a should not be equal to 0. This is the standard form. So whether you are sleeping or you are awake, okay, you should know the so-called standard form of the quadratic equation, that is ex squared plus bx plus c equal to 0. Okay, let's try to bring out the solution by, the first solution of the quadratic equation is by factoring. So we pass by the so-called discussion on special products in factoring because we will be needing those ones in this topic. Okay, so you got it? Special factors in factoring before this solution of a quadratic equation by factoring. So if you know factoring, there will be no problem on how to bring out the solution of a quadratic equation. Okay, how to solve? Write in standard form, meaning you write the given quadratic equation in standard form. It should be something like this. Okay, and the right hand side should be equal to 0. There is no term on the right hand side, and the value of the right hand side is 0. Okay, that's number 1. Then factor the left side. Factor the left side. So apply your knowledge on how to factor out, right? A factor is so-called what they call this. There are lots of things of on how to factor out. Number 3, set its factor to 0. Okay, since it is quadratic, there will be 2 binomial terms, and set its binomial to 0, then the last part will be solve for x. If the variable is x, solve for x. So for a quadratic equation, there should be a value x1 and there should be a value x2. 2 values, quadratic. Okay? Let's try to bring out 2 example problems just to illustrate the concept of the so-called solution of a quadratic equation by factoring. Okay, let's see if you could recall your special products in factoring. Solved by factoring, right? Given the quadratic equation, 15x squared plus 29x equal to 14. Okay? meaning we are asked to solve for the value of x1 equal to, and what will be the value of x2 equal to. It is quadratic, right? Number 1, according to the, what do you call this, method of solution, write the equation in standard form. The given equation is not in standard form yet, so we'll try to, what do you call this, change this one for it to be under the so-called standard form. Because the standard form, the right hand side is equal to 0. So what do? We add both sides, or we subtract both sides by negative 14. Right? So after subtracting negative 14 to both sides, this cancels and the right hand side will now be equal to 0. So after the subtraction of negative 14 to both sides, what comes out is 15x squared plus 29x minus 14 equal to 0. And this is now the so-called standard form. Right? Okay, let's try to bring out the solution of this by factoring. Okay? Let's try to bring out the verification for us to, what do you call this, bring out the factor form of this one. For the first term, the possible factors of 15x squared, it can be written as 5x times 3x. There are so many other prime factors, but in this solution here, the only possible prime factors that is needed will be 5x times 3x, because 5 times 3 will be 15, and x times x will be x squared. So 5x times 3x is actually 15x squared. So the first part of the two binomials will be 5x and 3x. Right? Before we bring out the middle term, let's try to bring out the possible factors of negative 14. Negative 14 can be written as, since this is negative, one should be a plus and a minus, or the first one should be minus, then the second one will be plus, for it to be both minus. Right? So we'll try to consider for the meantime, negative 14 can be written as the product of negative 2 times 7. Because in negative 2 times 7 will be negative 14. Let's try to see if this, if this combination will give us the correct middle term. So we will place negative 2 here, and this is plus 7, right? Because a negative 2 times a plus 7 is actually negative 14. Okay? We are now correct with the first term. We are now correct with the last term. So let's try to verify the middle term. If the middle term is correct, okay, what comes out on the first term and last term are correct, right? So for the middle term is just this one here. Negative 2 times 3x, right? Is it correct? Oh, the product of negative 2 times 3x will be negative 6x, right? And the other one will be 5x times 7. 5x times 7, where's it? 5x times 7 will be 35x, right? Try to simplify. Negative 6 plus 35, they are both similar. 35 minus 6 will be 29. It's plus. Okay? So the combination 5x minus 2 times 3x plus 7 will give us a middle term of plus 29x. And this is okay. So we continue with the factoring. This should be negative 2 and this should be positive 7. Okay, so there's no more problem because the middle term is correct. Okay, so according to the method of solution, set its factor to 0. 5x minus 2 equal to 0. Okay, x1, expand it a little bit, we put it to the right, we divide it by 5, so x1 will be 2/5. Right? The next factor is 3x plus 7. We set it again to 0. That is according to rule number 3, right? Then solve for x. 3x will be equal to negative 7 after the transposition. dividing by 3, x2 now will be negative 7/3. So this will be the second answer. And this should be the first answer. So the solution to the given quadratic equation 15x squared plus 29x equal to 14 or minus 14 equal to 0 is actually x1 equal to 2/5 and x2 equal to negative 7/3. Okay? This is the way how I solve a quadratic equation by factoring. Okay, I will bring out the first term. Okay, I will bring out the last term. Okay, then I will try to check the validity of the middle term. If the middle term turns out to be correct, okay, the first term and the second term variations are actually correct. That's how I solve a quadratic equation by factoring. Okay, last example for this morning. Solved by factoring, we are given the quadratic equation x squared minus 19x plus 84 equal to 0. Bringing out the solution. We are just lucky a little bit because the given quadratic equation is now in the so-called standard form, right? The right-hand side is 0 and all the terms on the polynomial for the algebraic expression is on the left. So x squared minus 19x plus 84 equal to 0. This is already in the so-called standard form, right? And according to rule number 1, okay, or the rule on how to bring out the solution, factor the left side, right? So we'll factor out like this. I will go with the first term. The first term is x squared, right? So the only possible factors will be a plus x and a plus x, or it could be a negative x and negative x, but we'll go with the plus x and a plus x, right? So the first part of the first binomial is x, the second one is x, okay? And that satisfies the first term, right? Before we go with the middle term, we will go first with the last term. The last term is 84, right? The pure constant. And 84 can be written as, okay, a 12 times 7. Positive 84, it can be a negative and a negative for it to be a plus, right? Or it can be a plus and a plus for it to be a plus, right? But since the sign of the middle term is minus, okay, we'll go with this one, right? And the possible factors of 84 is the product of 12 times 7 because 12 times 7 is actually 14 can 184, right? So the possible factors of positive 84, okay, it should be, we will take the minus and minus. So it should be minus and minus, and this should be 12 and 7. So we'll place negative 12 on this one, right? And we place negative 7 on this one. Because a negative 12 times a negative 7 is actually positive 84, right? Okay, let's try to check the middle term. If it will be satisfied to be negative 19x. The middle term is actually the product negative 12 times x, which is negative 12x. And the other one is negative 7 times 7x will be negative 7x. Similar terms, negative, negative, so they should be negative. 12 plus 7, that will be 19x. The middle term, with these variations in the first term and last term, came out to be negative 19x. Okay, it satisfies the given quadratic equation. So the possible factors of x squared minus 19x plus 84 should be the product of two binomial, x minus 12 times the quantity x minus 7, and this should be equal to 0. Step number 3, set its factor to 0. X minus 12 equal to 0. Therefore, x1 now will be equal to negative 12. This is x with the subscript 1, meaning root of x number 1. And this should be equal to 12. Taking the second factor, set it to 0. X minus 7 equal to 0. Okay, x now with the subscript 2 will be 7. So the second value of x will be 7. Okay? So the solution of the given quadratic equation x squared minus 19x plus 84 equal to 0 are the values x1 equal 12 and x2 equal to 7. Okay, that's it, guys. It's very easy. It's easy if you are familiar with the so-called study of special products in factoring, right? That's why we discussed that first before we go with this quadratic equation. Okay, so for those of you who are taking up college algebra, okay, or just reviewing college algebra, this is for you guys, right? If you want to subscribe to my channel is at youtube.com/at Prof. David J. De Los Reyes. If you want to share it, please click share. I will be telling you this one. If you want to learn something about college algebra, just watch my long video format discussion on college algebra. Okay, good morning from Los Angeles, Professor David J. De Los Reyes.